Hi, everyone. It seems there's a lot of interest in the topic of masculine and feminine energy as it relates to relationships. Online dating coaches have even suggested strategies in using our masculine and feminine roles to our advantage in relationships. In my opinion, it's not about having an advantage in relationships, but instead having harmony in relationships. And before I go further, I wanted to stop right here for a few minutes and talk about this a little bit. Um, it's true that there is a stereotypical, trait that men have and versus women. So men will have most likely men will have more of the male traits, and women have more of the female traits. However, I want to say that the truth is, male and females both have a little bit of each other's traits. Okay, so in other words, in a man's situation, he's not going to have all of male traits. He's going to have a little bit of feminine traits as well, and same thing with the female. The female may be primarily having female traits, but they also possess a little bit of the male traits. And so I don't think it's so much of using your whatever primarily what your energy is to your advantage in relationships. I think it's a matter of understanding each other, having a balance, and developing who you are so that so the balance can mean that if you're too masculine, right? If you're a man, you're too masculine. There's a time and place to be masculine, and then there's some situations that call for a man to be more gentle, leaning more towards the feminine side, and vice versa. It's okay. Definitely, it's wonderful that if women are primarily feminine. However, there you can't. I just don't believe in extremes. I think there's a balance in many things in life, and this is another area where I think, uh, even when it comes to the energies of men and women, I think the healthier relationships have a balance. And so, if you're too feminine, if you have primarily feminine traits and not enough male traits, that's not necessarily healthy either. Because as we all know, as you go through life, in work circumstances and other various life circumstances, certain situations call for a different uh, type of energy, right? You can't be all feminine because there's situations in your life that will require maybe more of a masculine role. So no matter what roles you develop as you become an adult, you still need to understand what your roles are, primarily what your roles are, and then maybe find a way to balance that and come towards the center and develop more of the opposite roles, so that I think having a balanced energy will help you throughout life. And that's the key thing I want to say here. And I don't think it's a one size fits all. We all come from different kinds of backgrounds, different upbringings, even, right? If you come from a one parent family versus a two parent family, that's going to also affect the energy that you grew up with, right? If you're raised by a single parent, and let's say you're raised by a single mom, you're probably going to have more feminine traits, right? And vice versa. If you're primarily raised by your dad, you're probably going to have more male energy in you than female. And so, and again, we're not going to pass judgment, because I think both male and female energies are wonderful. They all have their place in life, but it's the key is recognizing where you came from, what kind of environment had led you to possess the energies that you currently have, and then um, realizing where the balance is, where it needs to be, and then work towards that. Okay, so let me go ahead and continue. Um, so today we're going to talk about how to balance masculine and feminine energy in relationships. But before we dive into this topic, we first need to understand what masculine and feminine energy is and the respective traits that are associated with these two energies. According to an online article called Masculine versus Feminine Energy: Finding the Balance, found on www.themodernmasculine.com, it defines the masculine and feminine energy and its traits as follows. Quote, masculine energy: focused and goal oriented, decisive and protective, logical and structured, driven by action and purpose. So these are primarily what is described as male energy. Okay, it's focused and goal oriented, they're decisive and protective, they're logical and structured, and they're driven by action and purpose. Okay, and the feminine energy traits are intuitive and empathetic, creative and nurturing, adaptable and fluid, driven by connection and feeling. Okay, so let me just repeat this again. Feminine traits are commonly referred to as they are intuitive and empathetic, creative and nurturing, adaptive and fluid, driven by connection and feeling. And masculine traits are thought to have strength, they're known to be of strength, providing stability and protection. And discipline, it's staying focused on goals and priorities, and leadership, guiding and making decisions with confidence. So this is just another category that they're saying when it comes to masculine traits. These are the traits that you normally see: is strength, providing stability and protection, discipline, staying focused on goals and promises, goals and priorities, and leadership, guiding and making decisions with confidence. Okay, and likewise, female traits are usually regarded as one having empathy, understanding and connecting emotionally, creativity, bringing new ideas and perspectives, and flexibility, adapting to change with grace. So if you stop and think about it, folks, this is, I would say this is more or less what we commonly see, when it comes to masculine and feminine traits. Okay. Again, it's not a rule for everyone. Okay. Again, depending how you're raised, the environment you grew up in, you may have, most people have a little bit of both. Okay. And most people have primarily one type of energy, but they also incorporate other energies and traits into their personality. So it's not one or the other, one extreme or the other. And so, if you think back on the people that you know in your life that are masculine or feminine, you can definitely see where these traits come into play. Well, while these are clearly the typical stereotypes associated with masculinity and femininity, it is important to realize that most people have a combination of both. And that's what ultimately makes relationships somewhat challenging, because we must recognize which traits we have and learn to balance our traits with that of our partner's traits in relationships. We need to understand our differences and then work together to build a harmonious relationship by incorporating what each partner brings to the table. Okay, so let me just stop right here. This is really, really important. So contrary to what I disagree with most of the coaches out there who talk about using your energies to an advantage to try to manipulate the other opposite sex, right? Or to manipulate your partner, whoever that may be. I don't think playing games and being manipulative is the right course of action when you're trying to build a good, solid, successful relationship. But what I do want to say here, I do believe that it does make it challenging, okay? Because no two people are the same, right? Whether you're two males or two females, or you're male and female, I mean, even two females, right? If you think about it, your same-sex friends, there's whole different personalities out there. You're not going to have the same personality as your friend. Likewise, when you meet a partner, uh, same thing. You have your individual personality. That person has their individual personality, male or female. Okay. The challenge is be able to bridge that gap. The differences are there. No matter how much two people have in common, you are still two separate individuals. You may think alike most of the time, you may share a lot of the same values, but even the best of couples, they are still going to have their differences. And so the key is, folks, is that you have to be able to balance out and recognize what the differences are, where there's room to grow, where is there room to improve in this relationship for the both of you, and come to a happy medium where I usually call it a happy compromise, right? If you're having a disagreement with your partner, it's not a matter of your way or my way, but it's our way, right? How can we come to a happy meeting of the minds where the solution is a win-win for the both of us, not just for you or for me? Okay, and I've said it in my other previous videos. Obviously, if it's a topic that's not that important to you, there's not everything is a problem, right? I mean, hopefully we're not with extreme type of personalities where everything is an issue. That's just too draining for anyone. Hopefully we recognize we need to pick our battles. Is your when you're engaged in a disagreement or an argument, you need to figure out, is this a subject worth battling for, right? I mean, not everything's worth a battle. Some issues are important to you and not important to your partner, and vice versa. Some things are are important to your partner, but may not be that important to you. So there's a give and take in relationships where there's flexibility. Not you can't have your way all the time, right? So it's very important is to know yourself, know what your strengths are, right? Know what your energy is, or energies, because you're going to have a combination of both. Know yourself. Understand as you're dating. This is very important. I believe the main intention of to date is to get to know somebody well. Take that opportunity to learn everything you can about that person. See them in different situations. Understand them. Understand their character, their values. Okay. And then by doing that, as the differences surface, you both can then come up with a game plan to work on making your relationship more balanced, so there's harmony in the relationship. And this is what we're going to talk about. Okay. The key is striking a balance between the energies of both partners to achieve harmony. How then do we achieve harmony? Well, I believe reaching harmony is simply honoring oneself as well as honoring our partners. It is always easy to spot a great harmonious relationship when both partners are seen honoring one another. Here are 5 signs when honor is present in a relationship. These signs will be represented by the spelling of the word honor, Honor. H for happy. Both partners are clearly seen as happy. We have all seen couples that are either both miserable and or one of the partners is unhappy. When both partners have learned to work through and accept their differences, they are able to function together as a team, get along very well, and are compatible. Being happy is when each partner can be true to themselves in the relationship. They can maximize their strengths and accept their weaknesses. Loving others unconditionally sometimes means giving grace to them, knowing that no one is perfect. It's holding space for them to be imperfect because we recognize we are human and imperfect ourselves. When both partners are truly happy being together, they have learned to honor each other and live together in harmony. Okay? And if folks realize, no, this is easier said than done. We all can say the right advice, the right things that people need to do. But we all know in relationships, it's very difficult. It's very, very challenging. That's why the divorce rate is as high as it is, right? It is. People have said that marriage is a very high calling. I think any relationship, whether it's long term or a marriage, is a high calling because it's not easy. It's easy to fall in love, but to be in real love, we're not talking about romantic love, but to really learn to love one another unconditionally. It does take time, and it does take a lot of understanding and honor. Okay, so just keep these things in mind. It's not something we need to get to beat ourselves up on. Okay, but it's something that we all need to recognize, that if we all want that kind of wonderful relationship, it takes work. Okay, and so I believe honor goes a long way. Okay, next letter O for open communicative. Both partners can openly communicate. Having open and honest communication is key to understanding the differences and strengths of both the feminine and masculine traits. Both parties aren't afraid to be their authentic selves and feel free to openly communicate their needs. They are flexible when they need to be and are also able to speak his or her own truth when needed. Let me say it again. But both parties aren't afraid to be their authentic selves and feel free to openly communicate their needs. They are flexible when they need to be and are also able to speak his or her own truth when needed. Sometimes one or both partners feel shy and are afraid to speak up in fear of causing stress or problems in their relationship. However, it's important for both to face their fears and maybe seek help to learn how to openly communicate. No one is born with natural communication skills. As most of you are aware, poor or lack of communication skills are commonly seen in unhealthy, toxic relationships that result in relationship failures. Learning how to be openly communicative helps to create the intimacy and vulnerability needed in healthy relationships. Thus, communicating openly is a powerful way to honor one another. So I just want to comment here real quick. You've heard it said, we have all, excuse me, we have all heard it said that communication is huge, right? A lot of relationships fail uh, because of a lack of communication or poor communication. I tend to think it's more poor communication. um, and so I do believe in counseling. I think couples counseling or marital counseling is definitely helpful. For those of you who are struggling with communication, I would definitely recommend you seek couples counseling. Okay, because it does. No one, as I said, no one is born with those kind of skills. I think it takes practice, and you have to be cognizant of when you're communicating, how you're communicating, how your partner is receiving the communication, how you're receiving the communication when your partner is communicating to you, and be able to be in touch with your feelings and identify with your feelings, and then being able to be communicative enough and vulnerable enough to express your true feelings. This is all part of being authentic. Okay, folks? Um, that is so important. It's nearly impossible to be happy if you can't be yourself in a relationship. We all know, or some of us may have been in dysfunctional, toxic relationships where we feel like we have to do something to please our partners, or we're afraid to be ourselves because we might upset our partners, right? Or our partners may get angry or put us down or intimidate us if we don't do what we think pleases them. Folks, these are all very toxic kind of relationships. The best relationships, most harmonious relationships are ones where both partners are able to be freely themselves authentically. Now, I just want to say here, free as far as being healthy. Okay, obviously, if one or both partners are unhealthy and they have very toxic behaviors, that's not something anyone should accept. Okay, I want to make that clear. Unconditional love is not putting up with or tolerating abuse, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical. No way. Okay, I'm not advocating that. I will never advocate that. Okay, so for those of you who are in an abusive relationship, you need to seek counseling. You cannot build a healthy relationship or even a harmonious one if your relationship has abuse and toxicity in the relationship. Now, I do want you to take time, if you are in a toxic relationship, go look at my past videos on what what toxicity is. Okay, I think it would be very helpful to you if you can understand what toxic behaviors are. And then there's also another video I did on how to set the boundaries. Okay, both are good videos. If you are interested, please check that out. Um, so, I just want to say that it's recognizing and recognizing what kind of relationship you're in, where the improvements need to be, if they need to be, if both parties have to, need to improve the relationship, and then seeking help if needed to do that. Okay, if you and your partner tried and tried and tried it, and you're still having the same old arguments, every argument ends up to be the same way. Feelings are hurt from both parties. Both parties are feeling they're not being heard, right? And it's become toxic. You definitely need to seek counseling and get that resolved. Okay, and I think it's very, very important. And the worst thing you can do is to get married or enter a long-term commitment when these issues haven't been ironed out. And that's why I'm a very big supporter of, when you're in the dating phase, to take that time, take that year out. If you haven't checked out my video, the two secrets to success, to a successful relationship, Please check that out also. Very important to take that time out. Go through the 4 dating stages in a relationship, as you'll see in that video. And to take that time out to see if you can work out all the differences, get to know your partner very well, see if you can accept each other for who you are, who each other are, right? Um, and only then what I would say, if you can do all that and go through the 4 dating stages, then you might be ready to enter the next phase, which is a commitment, whether that be living together long term or getting married. Okay. The next one is O for open-minded. Oh, I'm sorry, N for nurturing. Both partners are very nurturing to themselves and to each other. Likewise, they can set healthy boundaries for themselves to keep themselves stable. This is important for health and balance in a relationship. Allowing each other enough space, not too much, not too much, but just enough to refresh, contemplate, and nurture our own spirit. Sometimes if we don't take time for ourselves, we can lose ourselves in a relationship, forget who we are, and become overwhelmed and unhappy. This is all about staying true to ourselves and practicing self-love so we can love our partners in a healthy way. Nurturing ourselves is critical to maintaining the health and happiness of a relationship. And this nurturing begins with us. If we can nurture ourselves, we will then be able to honor our partners and nurture them in the process. However, it's equally important to note that if we are unable to nurture ourselves, then it may be a sign that we may need to seek counseling to heal and learn self-love. It may be a challenge for those with strong masculine traits to be nurturing, but it's worthwhile learning to lean a little towards nurturing to balance out the masculine side in order to reciprocate showing honor to their partners with more feminine traits. Again, it's striking a balance between partners, sort of like a compromise. So both partners are and feel honored respectively. Okay. So this is important. This thing about, I really believe you can't begin to nurture each other if you got to nurture yourself first. You need to learn self-love. Okay. If you're not able to nurture yourself, and by the way, those of us who are the people pleasers, the ones that are over accommodating, usually women are the ones that play that role, but there are men, like I said, there are some men that have more of those feminine energies, and they may be the one that are over accommodating, right? If you find yourself in that role, you most likely haven't learned self-love to nurture yourself first. You're too busy pleasing everybody else. At the end of the day, you're the only one that's not getting the nurturing. And after a while, if you continue with this pattern, you will feel neglected, and even abused to some extent. Because if you're with a partner who's not balanced and or is toxic and narcissistic, your partner may take advantage of your nurturing nature and become abusive, take you for granted. And that's not a way to live, folks. So that's why this whole thing about having balance is very, very important. You need to understand where you are, and like I said, you need to have self-love. Many of us who don't know how to self-love is because we've probably come from childhood environments that were toxic. Okay. And so that's why counseling is important, because your counselor will work with you to identify all the areas where you need healing. And once you learn to heal, then you'll be able to slowly learn to love yourself. Okay. And to nurture yourself. And then only when that happens are you able then to be able to nurture others. So there is a process involved. And this is key, is to nurture. Okay. And O for open-minded. Both partners are being open-minded to personal growth and learning to adapt and maybe even develop opposing traits while harnessing their familiar feminine or masculine traits. It's this flexibility and open-mindedness that will allow each partner to be fully their authentic selves while also being accepted as they truly are. Let me say that again. It's this flexibility and open-mindedness that will allow each partner to be fully their authentic selves while also being accepted as they truly are. Whether you identify with more masculine or feminine traits, it doesn't hurt to step a little outside of your comfort zone. Welcome the opportunity to enhance your skills and deepen your relationships. Okay. So yeah, this thing about being open-minded, it's important. Okay. If we get too set in our ways, then it's not gonna help the relationship, folks. Anytime you're in a relationship, there is a healthy give and take. One person cannot uh stay rigid. Okay, both partners cannot be rigid, and because then if you ever get into a disagreement where you're both like at odds with each other, right? There's got to be a give, folks, right? Like I said earlier, learn to pick your battles wisely. Not everything is a battle, okay? And so you have to recognize which items are you willing to be, which areas are you can you flex on? Can you be flexible? Do we have to fight everything? Does everything have to be our way? Are there areas that we can kind of bend a little bit, let our partner have their way, and vice versa, right? And so I do believe in when it comes to happy, harmonious relationships, the couples that are successful are the ones that are very loving, open-minded, they're flexible, they're willing to give and take with their partners, right? There's this equal um, dynamic of give and take. It's not about all someone just doing all the taking, someone doing all the giving, okay, or both people being rigid. It takes flexibility, okay? And so something that is worth keeping in mind. Being open-minded is a decision we must intentionally make, especially as we get older. It is common for us to become more set in our ways as we age. So it does require a conscious awareness and decision to be open-minded. If you think of a healthy old tree that has weathered all the storms in life, it survived by being flexible and not too rigid. So during stormy weather with high winds, the branches can flex and sway without breaking and snapping off the tree, right? Can we picture that for a moment, right? Have Many of us have seen trees that are over 100 years old, right? We've seen trees that have been there for ages. How did it get that way, right? Especially if a tree is in an area that's prone to storms, hurricanes, tropical winds, right? The ones that weather those storms are the ones that are able to flex. If a tree is too rigid, okay, and again, we're going to talk about the balance. If a tree is too rigid on this extreme, okay, when the winds come, the branches are going to snap off. They're just going to break, right? On the other hand, if the tree is not rooted properly, and it's not planted rooted properly, and it's too flexible where it can just come out of the ground, the slightest storm or wind that passes by, it would just uproot the whole tree, right? And next thing you know, the tree's totally uprooted from the ground, from the dirt, from its foundation, and it falls over. So again, it's this. If you can picture that, I like to use. I'd like to use examples with pictures because it helps some of us see it in a more concrete way. So if you can picture an old large tree, okay, it's balanced. Okay, it's strong, but yet it's flexible, and so that's what I'm saying here. Um, I believe the same principle also holds true for strong, healthy, long term relationships. Two partners are never 100% alike, so they must learn to compromise when needed and be accepting of each other's differences. It's uh, Accepting each other's differences is at the heart of what unconditional love is all about. Let me say that again. Accepting each other's differences is at the heart of what unconditional love is all about. It's loving your partner unconditionally for all the commonalities as well as the differences. Where there is true love, there is abundant grace. After all, our God of love is full of mercy and grace. Okay. Um, every relationship brings forth an opportunity for both partners to honor each other by being open minded. Learning to adapt and grow together will go a long way to building a long lasting relationship that will stand the test of time. Being open minded will also help bring balance and understanding of the different masculine and feminine traits within each partner. And most importantly, open mindedness adds to the harmony and honor in a relationship. Last but not least, R for respectful. Both partners are respectful to each other. and they feel equally valued in the relationship. They think highly of each other and support each other's beliefs and values. They honor each other's differences by agreeing to disagree sometimes without blame or judgment. They can navigate through the relationship challenges by their mutual love and respect for one another. So let me just say this again. They think highly of each other and support each other's beliefs and values. They honor each other's differences by agreeing to disagree sometimes without blame or judgment. They can navigate through the relationship challenges by their mutual love and respect for one another. They view each other as equal partners and work together as a team. Their decisions are made in the best interest of the team versus an individual mindset. Like I said earlier, it's not about you or me, it's we, right? It's a team mentality. And so this is where the respect comes in, is when you can both they view each other as equal partners and work together as a team. Their decisions are made in the best interest of the team versus an individual mindset. Couples who genuinely respect each other can work well together to successfully find a common solution. Their individual egos are set aside for the sake of the team. Both understand the concept of we versus I. Both are committed to being responsible for their own happiness and have a healthy level of interdependency versus codependency. Okay, let me just stop here just for a minute and talk about this a little bit. We've all heard of codependent relationships, right? That's when a relationship is out of balance and they're most likely toxic, and couples are just kind of meshed together. They kind of lost themselves. They don't even know who they are anymore, right? They're so engrossed and enmeshing each other that there's not a separation or a distinction between each person, and that's not healthy, folks. And to have this kind of what we're talking about, a harmonious relationship, there's got to be some interdependency, okay, which means that while the couples are independent, they are dependent to each other to some extent, but it's not 100%. Okay, they still may retain their own individuality, but yet at the same time they're able to merge while still maintaining their own individuality. They're able to merge in a healthy way. Okay, and I believe the only way that's possible is if the two people have learned to respect one another. Okay, in a healthy relationship, um, that's where you'll see this kind of respect. Okay, it's not a matter of domineering or controlling somebody or trying to change somebody to make them like ourselves, but rather it's celebrating the differences, or and maybe celebrating is too strong of a word, but it's recognizing the differences and then be able to still, uh, honor each other and accept the differences, even though someone may not be exactly like you 100%. You can learn to appreciate the areas where you both don't see eye to eye, where you both think differently, or you like something, your preferences are not the same, right? It's to be able to appreciate that. Um, okay, and then making the decisions for the team. Okay, it's not about trying to win every argument, and that's where there's a lot of problems with relationships that are not healthy. It's about a winner and loser. Someone has to win an argument. It's not about we. It's about just one person or both parties wanting to fight for their own views, and they're not willing to come to a middle ground as for a compromise. And that's where communication comes in, and having all uh, these traits that we are talking about that make up a relationship where you honor each other. Okay. Um, Couples who genuinely respect each other can work well together to successfully find a common solution. Their individual egos are set aside for the sake of the team. Both understand the concept of we versus I. Both are committed to being responsible for their own happiness and have a healthy level of interdependency versus codependency. It's the joining of two happy, whole people that form a relationship based upon mutual respect. I believe two people must genuinely like, trust, and respect each other prior to developing a strong, compatible friendship. And that's why you heard me say often in my previous videos that trust is the foundation of a friendship, and friendship is the foundation of a relationship. Let me say this again. Trust is the foundation of a friendship, and friendship is the foundation of a relationship. Therefore, being respectful is not only at the heart of friendships, but also plays a key role in the honor and harmony in relationships. In summary, honoring one another will go a long way towards creating harmony in a relationship. Having masculine energy or feminine energy has very little to do with relationship success. Rather, having a successful relationship has everything to do with learning to honor one another, regardless of whatever masculine and feminine traits we have. Harmony can be achieved when honor is present to balance the energies between masculine and feminine. As a reminder, honor can be seen in relationships where both parties are H, happy, O for openly communicative, N for nurturing, O for open minded, and R for respectful. Okay? So, folks, I really enjoy doing this video. I have done some research and seen a lot of other dating coaches out there who have shared their views on how about this masculine and feminine kind of energy and how to work with that. And like I said, I'm some of the coaches I don't agree with. I don't think it's a matter of manipulating your partner, and or staying so stuck in your own energy that you're not willing to bend and flex, okay, become more open minded and to learn and grow, right? I think healthy people are constantly evolving. You weren't the same person 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 30 years ago, right? We're all of us as human beings, if we live long enough, we're constantly evolving, and hopefully for the better, right? Hopefully we're all becoming more loving, more integrated as a whole person, and and so that's important, and so I think as the more we grow individually and personally, and spiritually, we're able to develop these qualities that we're talking about here, to be able to honor one another, and so I think the path to a successful relationship has everything to do with honor, and instead of trying to manipulate or hold firm uh, to our own energies, and try to and not allow that room for growth. I think personal growth and spiritual growth is uh is part of what adds to a successful harmonious relationship. Okay, so folks, I hope you resonate with this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please click like and click share. If you have any comments you want to add or thoughts that you'd like to share with everyone, please put that in the comments below. And again, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel so you can be posted on all my future upcoming videos. Okay, so folks, until next time, I'll see you again soon. Take care, and hope you're able to find your harmonious relationship. Okay, all right, bye.